This is the Business and Governance Committee meeting, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's 9:18 a.m. And Rosie, will you please call the roll?
I'll be happy to, Madam Chair. Roberta Spoon.
Here.
Thomas Battaglia.
Here.
Michelle Bush.
Here.
Charles Hawquist.
Present.
Paul Kaufman.
Here.
Paul Lotz.
Here.
And that concludes the roll call.
Thank you, Rosie. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have a quorum for today.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
I'd like to remind everybody that when we're voting on action items, please state your name first, and then Rosie will call the roll for the vote. And when you're making a motion for a second or a first, also please state your name first. Rosie, do we have any public comment today?
No, Madam Chair, we do not have any public comments for today's meeting.
All right, thank you very much. So moving on to the action items. As a reminder, Tanasi set the standard that there's an expectation in this committee that we will have all read all the materials. So we are not going to go through all of the documents for the action items. However, on the very first one is staff's recommendation to adopt a resolution allowing the meeting to be held virtually pursuant to AB 361. And I would like to make the first and do I have a second?
Paul will second.
Thank you. Rosie, will you please call the vote?
I would be happy to. Just to confirm, was that Paul Kaufman making the second?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. Roberta Spoon?
Yes.
Thomas Battaglia?
Yes.
Michelle Bush?
Yes.
Charles Hawquist?
Aye.
Paul Kaufman?
Yes.
Paul Lotz?
Yes.
And with that, we have the motion passed 6-0.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to number 2. And Greg is going to present staff's recommendation to delegate the selection and contract execution for Chief Investment Officer Recruitment Services.
Thank you, Bobby. As we've mentioned before, the SDCERS Chief Investment Officer, Liza Crisafi, has announced her pending retirement in July of 2022. And we are all very grateful for Liza's service to SDCERS. And we're really going to miss her, leadership and guidance in supporting the investment committee and the SDCERS board in developing a very successful long-term investment portfolio. But as we look to the future, the board has delegated the recruitment and retention of staff other than the chief internal auditor to the chief executive officer. And as such, we have begun our recruitment for our chief investment officer. To assist in the recruitment process, staff would like to secure the services of a professional recruitment services firm with a national presence and the ability to build and source an experienced, diverse candidate pool. Staff received 3 qualified proposals, and each firm's proposal is greater than the chief executive officer's $50,000 spending limit. So in accordance with board policy, if the estimated annual cost is greater than $50,000 but less than $100,000, the board may delegate the approval and selection of the vendor to the chief executive officer. And as the estimated annual cost for this search is going to be approximately $85,000, staff is seeking board approval to delegate the selection and contract execution to the chief executive officer. We expect this to be a successful search with a good candidate pool and to complete the search prior to Liza's retirement in July. As a side note, as a governmental entity, we take extra precautions to preserve the integrity and fairness of the search process. So should you be approached by a person wanting information regarding the CIO job, please refer them to me or our SDCERS Human Resources Director, Colin Brazil. I would be glad to address any questions you may have regarding the search. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Okay, do I have a first
This is Charlie. I'll make the motion.
and a second?
Michelle Bush, second.
Rosie, will you call the vote?
I'll be happy to, Madam Chair. Roberta Spoon,
Yes.
Thomas Battaglia,
Yes.
Michelle Bush,
Yes.
Charles Tocquist,
Aye.
Paul Kaufman,
Yes.
Paul Lotz.
Yes.
And with that, we have the motion passed 6-0.
Wonderful. All right, moving on to action item number 3. Michelle is going to present the staff's recommendation to extend Chiron's actuarial services contract through June 30, 2024. Michelle.
Good morning. Thank you, Bobby. So Chiron's contract is scheduled to expire June 30 of 22. That would have included the last valuation on June 30, 2021. Board policy requires that we go out to bid for this, and if a firm other than Chiron is selected, have an actuarial audit performed of the last year that Chiron presented to you all. We are in the middle, actually absolute middle depths of Prop B analysis in assisting the city with the unwinding of Prop B, and Chiron has been instrumental in that. They've been providing reports to the city for the last 3 or 4 years doing analysis, and they are right now doing the final analysis to determine the costing for those members, for those employees who have an option to join the system. We also have that the 6/30/22 valuation, the one coming up right now, would be the one that the actuarial experience study is based on. And so the challenges of having one firm perform a actuarial experience study on the 6/30/22 valuation and a separate firm implement it on the 6/30/23 valuation would also be a considerable challenge for them. So with that, we ask that the board waive their policy and approve this 2-year extension to Chiron's contract to allow them to complete the work for Prop B, conduct the experience study, and implement it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? I think it's a good idea, Marcel. I think it would be.
Thank you.
It's so challenging, if not impossible, to switch firms at this point with everything that's going on, and it's a very unique time. So with that, do I have a first?
Tom will move. Adam.
That was Tom.
Tom, thank you.
But a second?
Paul Lutz.
Second.
Great, thanks, Paul. And Rosie, will you call the vote?
Be happy to, Madam Chair. Roberta Spoon,
Yes.
Thomas Battaglia,
Yes.
Michelle Bush,
Yes.
Charles Tocquist,
Aye.
Paul Kaufman,
Yes.
Paul Lotz.
Yes.
And with that, we have the motion passed 6-0.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you,
My pleasure.
everybody. And now we're moving to step number 5. We don't have a presentation on this. It's staff's recommendation to approve a new master services agreement with CGI Technologies and Solutions for application support services. I have one question about this, David. So although this is a very large amount, it covers an 8-year period. Is that right? 4 years
Correct.
plus 2 2-year extensions?
4 years plus 2 2-year optional extensions, correct?
And the amount that's given in the information is for the entirety of the 8 years?
Correct.
Okay. And the reason that you're doing this is because this is an agreement that's piggybacked with the cities. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And there are certain economies of scale with doing that.
Yes.
You're a man of few words. But thank you very much. So do I have a first?
This is Charlie. I'll make the motion.
Okay, great. And a second?
Paul Kaufman seconds.
Perfect. Rosie, will you call the vote?
Yes, Madam Chair. Roberta Spoon,
Yes.
Thomas Battaglia,
Yes.
Michelle Bush,
Yes.
Charles Hawquist,
Aye.
Paul Kaufman,
Yes.
Paul Lotz. And with that, we have the motion pass 6-0. Madam Chair, please forgive me, but I believe we do have action item number 4 as well.
I do. Thank you very much for reminding me. Sorry about that. Let's go to number 4, staff's recommendation to approve an IRIS architecture upgrade project with Sagitech Solutions. Michelle?
Yes, good morning, committee members. I'm Michelle Wegner-Malecki, IT Application Services Manager. In 2014, IRIS, standing for Integrated Retirement Information System, became our production pension administration solution. Since that date, there have been many technological advancements that have impacted our environment. As such, the underlying architecture that supports IRIS is soon to be discontinued by Microsoft. Sagitech, our support vendor for IRIS, has provided SDCERS with a project plan to replace this technology with the new recommended platform. Upgrading to the new platform will align our environment with the Sagitech roadmap, the strategic roadmap of our vendor. Additionally, this upgrade will give our IRIS application and both our member and employer portals a new modern look while also improving the application performance and user experience. This change order will support the continued evolution of IRIS as well as ensuring the security and integrity of our applications. Staff recommends the Business and Governance Committee to approve this motion, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Michelle? Okay, I'll make the motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Charlie will second.
Thank you. Rosie, will you call the vote?
Yes, Madam Chair. Roberta Spoon,
Yes.
Thomas Battaglia,
Yes.
Michelle Bush,
Yes.
Charles Hawquist,
Aye.
Paul Kaufman,
Yes.
Paul Lotz.
Yes.
And with that, we have the motion pass 6-0.
Thanks for keeping me on track, Rosie.
I apologize for the interruption. Thank you. My pleasure.
Number 6, staff's recommendation to approve the SDCERS fiscal year 2023 administrative budget. Ted, let's roll here.
Good morning. Staff recommends the approval of the FY 2023 budget to support our operations. Next slide, please. And looking at the big picture, our FY 23 budget is $16.6 million and is increasing from FY 22 by $2.2 million or 15.5% from the prior year. Overall, the budget is increasing primarily due to salaries and fringe, contractual increases in IT, and increases in general operations. And I'll get into more detail in the following slides. Next slide, please. And looking at the pie chart for SDCERS, you can see rather quickly that SDCERS is a labor-intensive organization with our salaries and fringe approximately 60% of the total cost of the organization. There are 5 total categories, which I'll discuss in a little more detail. Next slide, please. And looking at the actual history of headcount at SDCERS, we hit a high of 65 people back in 2010. And as you see, we've actually decreased over time to the 51 staff that we've had for the last couple of years. We've done that through a combination of operational efficiencies and the addition of the IRIS information system as our new pension system, as well as cross-training staff across the various departments to deal with surge issues as they arise. Next slide, please. Our largest expense category, of course, is salaries and benefits at $10.4 million for FY23. This is a $2.1 million increase from FY22 and really deals with several different points. First off, we have salary increases for city negotiated increases with their unions for both FY22 and FY23, significant increases to fringe costs for both fiscal years, and internal staff position reclassifications and salary alignments. It is important to note that our FY22 original budget did not incorporate any salary increases as negotiated by the city because we weren't aware of them coming, nor did we know what the final fringe rates would be. Consequently, that becomes part of the swing between the FY22 budget and FY23. In addition, as you might see, fringe costs are projected to be $1 million higher from the original budget. Of that $1 million, approximately $700,000 is just related to FY22 actual fringe rates as given to us by the city of San Diego. Fringe costs are composed primarily of pension and health benefits, and SDCERS relies upon the city to give us the cost projections during our budget process. It should be noted, they're not final with their budget yet, which will be completed a couple months after SDCERS has completed our budget process. Next slide, please. Legal fees is $320,000 for FY23. This is a reduction of $45,000. In looking at the major components, litigation costs are comparable to FY22 and remain flat, while the disability budget increases by $15,000 due to a projected increase in the number of disability hearings. On the fiduciary legal fees side, we do project a decrease of $60,000 due to a reduction in fiduciary counsel consultations with both the board and SDCERS staff. Next slide, please. Before I get into the capital expenditures, I did want to make a couple comments about general operations. As Greg alluded to, in this category, you will see the expenses have been reduced, but within that category includes the recruitment costs for the new chief investment officer, the actuarial costs for an upcoming triennial actuarial experience study, offset by the move to the 8th floor and a decrease in rent expenditures. And looking at the actual capital spending, you can see we have a budget of $718,000, which is dominated by three main projects: the equipment relocation to the 8th floor, the Sagitech workflow development project, and IRIS framework architecture upgrade. Those two projects both deal with the IRIS information system. We also have a couple of smaller projects with an email server and two smaller projects to replace computer equipment. Last slide, please. SDCERS continues to manage its administrative cost structure despite the pressures of managing a growing and increasingly complex plan, which includes the removal of Prop B and the addition of approximately 3,800 members to the pension system. We will be very busy in the beginning of FY 2023 and probably here in the fourth quarter of FY 22 with Marcel leading the charge. And with that, I will turn this over to any questions the committee may have.
That was great. It's very clear, and your presentation was very clear. I have a question about the ratio of salary to fringes.
Yes.
It seems high.
Yes. So the city negotiated fringe costs and salaries went up by 4% in FY22, and it's going up by another projected 5% in FY23. And then add to that the position reclassifications internally and the associated fringes with that. The lion's share of that is the city negotiated pay increases over the 2-year period.
Okay,
So once again, remember the FY22 budget didn't contain any amounts for the city negotiated increases and final fringe rates.
right, okay. All right, do we have any questions?
I have one question, Michelle Bush. Just a consideration for IT network security. I don't know how recently that was looked at, or if there are any concerns for that, or if there should be any consideration to put resources into the budget to look at network security.
I can comment on that. We have an allocation for an annual network penetration test by a third-party vendor. So that is baked into our budget.
And thank you, Michelle. I'd also like to open with, over the past 3 years, the SDCERS board and the audit committee approved a 3-year audit plan consisting of 5 audits of looking at various aspects of the IT environment. And so this is something that's very, very much at the very top level of our concern, is making sure that we have cybersecurity and protected platforms. And so as Dave mentioned, we audit ourselves and challenge ourselves to make sure that we have a very robust and secure environment. And we also leverage the City of San Diego's IT department and division and utilize their resources in protecting our gateways and how we get in and out of our systems. How'd I do, Dave?
Excellent, better than I did.
Thank you.
And Michelle, at the audit committee level, we've had several presentations by the vendors regarding their work. It's generally in closed session, just based on the nature, the sensitive nature of the information. But I feel very confident that they are totally on top of it. But thank you for your very important question.
Thank you for that.
All right, so I'd like to make the first on this. I'm so proud of Ted and his work. I would like to make the motion.
Tom will second the motion.
Thanks, Tom. We call the vote?
Yes, Madam Chair. Roberta Spoon,
Aye.
Thomas Battaglia,
Yes.
Michelle Bush,
Yes.
Charles Hawquist,
Aye.
Paul Kaufman,
Yes.
Paul Lotz.
Yes.
And with that, we have the motion passed 6-0.
Perfect. Moving on to number 7. Staff's recommendation to amend the audit committee charter and the internal auditor charter. Sarah?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good to see your faces. In the materials, you will find a revised audit committee charter, which better reflects the committee's current responsibilities to operate at a policy level. I went through these modifications with management as well as the audit committee chair, and what you see today are the end results of those conversations. Another audit committee member had a recommended change regarding meeting in closed session, which I will share with you right now. So Melody, if you could bring up that document. And then scroll down to page 3. Okay, so see Roman numeral 4, that last sentence, if requested in advance, pertinent matters may be discussed in closed session in compliance with the Ralph M. Brown Act. That sentence was added after the materials were disseminated. I also included a revised internal auditor charter, which only has minor changes. We can close this document, thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have, and I wanted to let you know that this motion passed 4-0 at yesterday's audit committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any questions? Any of you auditors in the group? Michelle, you must have a question.
No, it sounds good.
It looks good, yeah. We had a wonderful presentation at the audit committee yesterday, and and as Sarah mentioned, it passed 4-0. So I think it's well done, and it very much clarifies the role of the audit committee, which it needed to be done. So do I have a first?
This is Charlie. I'll make the motion.
Second?
Paul.
Second, Michelle. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Well, second, Michelle Bush.
I call the vote. Rosie?
Yes, Madam Chair. Roberta Spoon,
Yes.
Thomas Battaglia,
Yes.
Michelle Bush,
Yes.
Charles Hawquist,
Aye.
Paul Kaufman,
Yes.
Paul Lotz.
Yes.
And with that, we have the motion passed 6-0.
Thank you, Rosie.
My pleasure.
Moving on to number 8, we don't have a staff presentation. It is the staff's recommendation to amend the board closed session policy, closed session disability hearing policy, communications policy, and returning to work after retirement policy. It's my understanding, Johnny, that these are basically non-substantive changes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. So I'd like to get a motion to approve.
Paul Kaufman makes a motion.
Second?
Tom will second.
Great. Rosie, call the vote.
Happy to. Roberta Spoon,
Yes.
Thomas Battaglia,
Yes.
Michelle Bush,
Yes.
Charles Hawquist,
Aye.
Paul Kaufman,
Yes.
Paul Lotz.
Yes.
And with that, we have the motion passed 6-0.
Great. Moving on to number 9. Again, we don't have a staff presentation. It's staff's recommendation to amend board rules 6.40, which is the drop annuity rate, 7.80, conduct of adjudications, 9.50, payment of active drop account, and Division 11 of the board rules, community property. Again, Johnny, these are minor amendments. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're minor amendments as explained in my cover memo.
Great, thank you. May I have a first?
Paul Kaufman makes a first.
Second?
Second, Michelle Bush.
Thank you. And Rosie, will you call the vote?
Yes, Madam Chair. Roberta Spoon,
Yes.
Thomas Battaglia,
Yes.
Michelle Bush,
Yes.
Charles Hawquist,
Aye.
Paul Kaufman,
Yes.
Paul Lotz.
Yes.
And with that, we have the motion passed 6-0.
Well, that was great. All 9 action items, unanimous. So moving on to reports. Cynthia, is Cynthia here?
No, Victoria Fedovizos here for Cynthia.
Okay, great.
Good morning. I'm the Member Services Supervisor. Tax forms mailed on time and minimal calls. As you are aware from the last board meeting, 1099s were mailed well in advance of the IRS January 31st deadline. Calls this year were far fewer than previous years. This is a growing trend where the amount of calls we receive has declined each year. I believe this is due to our focus on streamlining this process and the hard work the finance team does to get them out in a timely manner. The call center received only about 80 calls on 1099s this year through February. As you read in the board report, Kyle Purrs met with me and Serena Valenzuela about SDCERS' call center security procedures. SDCERS takes member security very seriously. Authentication of each member's identity is top priority. When a member calls in, they must answer security questions every time they need an SDCERS call center representative to access their account. This ensures that no one but the member gains access to their account. Our member portal access process also is designed to authenticate members through a detailed registration process. Again, members need to provide certain information in order to gain access to their member portal accounts. We appreciate CalPERS for recognizing SDCERS as a leader in pension system security. We have been working with the city's risk management department to coordinate education on the invalidation of Prop B. SDCERS' communications manager, Jessica Taylor, created a detailed training webinar that all affected employees are required to review before making a decision. Thus far, SDCERS has received minimal calls regarding Prop B, thanks to the coordinated communications effort to all Prop B affected employees. Thank you. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Victoria. That was a very nice presentation, and welcome.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions of Victoria?
Paul Lotz. Have the members from Prop B, have they already received that education, or is that something that's going to be rolled out in the near future?
No, they have. Yes, they have already.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome.
Well done. Okay, moving on to Benefits Administration. Marcel.
Good morning. I'm going to continue to talk about Prop B a little bit. I gave you a fairly detailed timeline in my report, but wanted to give you some updates on it. On February 15th, we did receive the initial file from the city of the approximately 3,800 employees that are in this first wave of Prop B unwinding. There was a little bit of back and forth between SDCERS and the city to make some tweaks to the report, and we got the final report on March 2nd. And on March 3rd, that was forwarded to Chiron to begin their analysis. That does move the other timelines down a tiny bit. We anticipate on April 28th, Chiron will provide their final report to the city, which the city will then use to provide communications to their members at the beginning of May. In answer to Paul's question a little bit and elaborating on Victoria's report, Jessica Taylor did a fantastic job of creating a video about SDCERS and how a DB plan works. There were 2 other videos created by the city about a DC plan and a comparison between a DC plan and a DB plan. All 3 of those videos are in Success Factors, and they are required viewing for all Prop B impacted employees before they can make an election on whether or not they join SDCERS or remain with the SPSP H plan. And the city is still in negotiation with some of the unions on the final unwinding of Prop B, but has asked us to move forward with the analysis in the meantime. Once this phase is completed, there are still approximately 1,800 impacted individuals. These are people who were hired during Prop B but have since separated from the city. And we also do anticipate that in November, we'll be coming back to the board with a final analysis of the costing of the employees who opt to join SDCERS, what has been transferred to SDCERS from SPSBH and from the city, and what remains outstanding for the board to make a decision on that funding policy. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Michelle. Are there any questions of Michelle?
Tom has a question.
Okay.
Hey, Marcel, are we able to get a copy of those videos to see what the city produced for the employees? Are you able to email those to us, or is that something we have to request from the city?
So the video that Jessica did, I believe, is on our website. Is that correct, Victoria?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so the video that we prepared, is on our website. The videos that the city prepared are not on our website, and you would need to contact risk management to get copies of those.
So, Marcel?
Yes.
The CEO pulling an audible. Why don't we see if we can get copies of those to share them with our oversight board? Maybe the city will share with those, and we can just share them with the entire board for their information.
I will look into that. They've requested that we not disseminate them, but I think that for our oversight board, that makes absolute sense, and I will confirm with risk management, and then we can send out links for those. We just ask that you not share them outside of the board at the request from risk management. Absolutely, we'll do that. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Okay, hearing none others, let's move on to IT. David?
Yes, based on recent global events, I do have an update to my report. In response to the crisis between Russia and Ukraine, the Department of Homeland Security's Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, issued a Shields Up alert. The CISA alert states, while there are no specific or credible cyber threats to the U.S. homeland at this time, Russia's unprovoked attack on Ukraine, which has involved cyber attacks on Ukrainian government and critical infrastructure organizations, may impact organizations both within and beyond the region. CISA recommends all organizations, regardless of size, adopt a heightened posture when it comes to cybersecurity and protecting their most critical assets. SDCERS IT has in place and maintains the tenets and security posture recommended by CISA. SDCERS and ZENSAR have seen no specific threat activity related to the Russia and Ukraine conflict. SDCERS is a CISA partner and stands ready to respond to any cyber event that impacts our system. And as was mentioned earlier, over the course of the past 2 years, IT has had 4 audits of IT operations, an IT general controls audit, a security audit, a business continuity audit, and most recently, a privacy audit. There have been no critical or high findings. In fact, there have been very few findings at all as a result of the audits. So I think that validates that our security posture is in very good shape, and it's been validated by the third-party auditors as well. And with that, I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Any questions of David? All right, hearing none, we don't have any other verbal or oral reports. I assume that everyone has read the other reports that are attached. Are there any questions on items 4 through 9? All right, and they were all very clear. So are there any questions from either the board members or staff, or any comments? Greg, I'm sure you've got a few.
Just an overall statement that your staff at SDCERS is, well, although still working remotely, is doing very, very well, running the business, and things are going well. We are going to have a challenge facing us coming up with regards to effectively coordinating and winding Prop B and moving operations up to the 8th floor. So staff really appreciates the committee support, and hopefully the board support on Friday with the budget to make sure we have resources to get 2 of those mission critical projects completed in the coming fiscal year. And I go to bed every night and say a special prayer for Marcel Voorhees-Rossman, that she stay healthy and with us during at least the next 12 months. So thank you.
That's a good idea. That is a very good idea. We need to make sure we take care of Marcel, who's leading this very complicated project. All right, it's my understanding that we do not have closed session today. Is that right, Johnny?
That's correct.
Okay. With that, I believe we are done. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and the time is 9:57.